Hello, my name is Sarah Gargel and I work with Living Archives. We are a 3-year initiative project where we are collecting stories from different marginalized groups of people, trying to gain an understanding of how COVID-19 impacted the community. Today is September 21st, 2022, and this week there were about 282 reported cases of COVID-19 in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg County, which shows a 7% decrease over the last 2 weeks. And for this interview, our participant is comfortable not wearing a mask. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, good morning. My name is Jacqueline Nyemb. I'm known by most people as Jackie.
Awesome, Jackie. Thank you so much for coming out and sharing your story with us. Where do you call home here in Charlotte?
I live in the northwest part of Charlotte, in a little neighborhood called McGregor Downs. It's right off of Billy Graham Parkway.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. So very close to where we are right now.
Yes.
Are you a Charlotte native?
I am a Charlotte native.
Wow.
Born and bred. I went away to, I got married in the early 80s, in 1980, in fact. And my husband and I went to his native country to live, which is Cameroon in West Africa.
Wow. How long were you in the Cameroon?
We lived there for 12 years.
Wow.
Yes, we had 2 sons there. My first son was conceived and born there. My second son was conceived there. We came home in my 5th month of pregnancy, gave birth to him here in Charlotte, went back 3 months later. And my children grew up in Cameroon, Africa until they were 9 and 11 years old.
Wow. And then you guys moved here and you've been here ever since?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, it's pretty, I'm not a Charlotte native, so I've heard it is pretty rare to meet Charlotte natives.
It is. It really is.
So that is amazing that we get to hear your story. So thank you again. I wanted to ask you, I know we did a hand map activity a little while ago. Would you want to share anything specifically from your hand map that stood out to you?
Okay, the adjectives that we were asked to use that describe ourselves, I think that it gives the essence of who I am. First, I would say a mother, mother of 2 sons, then a Christian. And this is in no particular order, but I'm a Christian as well. And I think my faith is very important in my life. It's what guides the way I live and how I treat people and how I solve problems. I'm also a wife of almost 42 years. I married in 1980.
That's amazing.
And I'm an optimist. I always think that things will turn out the way they're supposed to, and that I don't get too ruffled about things because I just think that God is in control and things will turn out the way they're supposed to turn out. And I always think on the positive side. And I'm also a friend. I love interacting with people. I'm a natural introvert, but I love people. I really love people. And I will sit back a lot and not be the leader or the most outspoken person, but I like that interaction. I like being around people.
Yeah.
And also on that hand map, we talked about 3 important journeys that we took in our lives. And I would say one important journey that I took was my journey in college. I went to North Carolina Central University in Durham. And there, a lot of my ways of looking at life were formed, and a lot of really good friendships were formed. And I learned a lot that helped me to navigate my life. And shortly after that, I was married, and that was a very important step in my life. And I married a man from West Africa, and the African marriage is not just between husband and wife. It's between family and family. It's
Okay.
between peoples and peoples.
Yeah.
between one tribe and one clan. My clan here in the United States and his tribe in Africa. So there's a big link, between people. And so that's really changed the way I look at things as well, or reinforced the way I look at things, because I'm a family oriented person. And the third journey was my life in Africa. My husband and I decided to move to Africa in 1982. And it was a cultural shock, but not really a family shock, because the family is really all embracing and very friendly. And I didn't feel like I was in a foreign place, but the general culture was different. But the culture within the family was basically the same, And when my children were born, we had a lot of interaction with the family. The family would come and take care of the children. So children were never left alone. We always had babysitters and people to supervise the children at all times. So it was really a wonderful experience.
So it really was. It sounds like they saying it takes a tribe to raise a child.
Absolutely.
It sounds
and that's
like that was very literal for you.
Very literal. Very literal. One thing I always kid my husband about is it was almost like 2 weeks before I really had to hold my own baby, because everybody had him, and I was really wanting to bond with him, and I would have the time, but not as much time as I want, because everybody was taking him. Everybody was, and thank God we didn't have any pandemics at that time.
Because thank God for that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How did you meet your husband?
We met in grad school in Atlanta.
Okay.
In Atlanta.
Cool. Mm-hmm. And you were in Atlanta for grad school?
Yes. Okay. I'm a social worker, like you.
Stop it.
I received my MSW at Clark Atlanta. But at that time, before in 1980, at that time, it was called Clark University. It was part of a 5-school consortium.
Okay.
But in later years, I guess for financial reasons or whatever, or to strengthen the university, they merged with Atlanta University, merged with Clark. And so it's known now as Clark University. Clark Atlanta University.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And we both studied social work. I studied clinical social work, and he studied policy planning and administration.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you use, when you were in the Cameroon, did you use your social work degree?
Absolutely. I did a lot of community work.
Okay.
My first job in Cameroon, I was, that was in education. I worked at the School of Social Work for about 4 years.
Wow.
I taught basic, like social work 101. And I taught one basic psychology class.
Okay.
Yeah. And then after that, I was recruited by Save the Children. Okay. You've heard of that? It's a foundation for, mm-hmm. They do a lot of community. At that time, they were doing a lot of community work in Cameroon. And they did things like help the people to build infrastructure projects like wells, schools, and health posts. Okay. So while I was there, they built so many I can't even count the number of classrooms that they built. We were concentrated in the northern part of Cameroon, Save the Children at that time, and that was one of the least developed parts of the country. And it was a principally Muslim part of Cameroon, and also a part that was affected by drought. Okay. And so they didn't have potable water. And so they Save the Children would dig wells. They would come in, they would partner with the community, settle on a project that whether they wanted a water post or whether they wanted classrooms or whether they needed health posts. And the village would decide what amount of money that they could put in or whatever resources they could contribute to the project, and Save the Children would match whatever it was that the village could contribute. And then this project would be developed, and I was pretty much the sponsorship coordinator. And if you know about Save the Children, they used to, I don't know if they still have it now, but they used to have one-on-one sponsorships of Americans to foreign children's projects. And so I'm getting a little bit nervous. No, they would have one American person to sponsor a Cameroonian child. Okay. And so the child and the sponsor would write back and forth to each other, and the sponsors would send gifts and kind of token gifts and things, but the actual funding would be pooled to realize the projects that the villagers wanted to make.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
Yeah, so they did. I really, right offhand, I can't remember how many projects, but there were quite a few. Until by the time I left Cameroon in '94, they had already worked their way out of that area.
Okay.
I think they were leaving to go to another part of the country. They had, actually, they had 4 sites. They had one in the western part of Cameroon, one in the northern part, and one in the eastern. But I often visited the one in the in the northern part of Cameroon. So it was really an amazing experience.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it really was.
And so here in Charlotte, do you still teach, or are you still part of an organization?
Okay, I have been retired from social work since 2018.
Okay.
And since then, I have been volunteering. I've done some volunteering with my church, and I've also tried some volunteering with substitute teaching. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, it's not volunteering, but I've been doing some substitute teaching. And just when I started to do the substitute teaching, COVID hit. Okay. And so there was a lockdown period, but as soon as they lifted the lockdown, then I started to do some last year. And so I've substituted in about 5 different schools. The Metro School and several elementary schools, and I think about 2 middle schools. Okay.
And you just teach whatever classes they need support in?
Yes, they're really organized. They have this app that they give us. Once you're cleared to be a substitute teacher, you get this app on your phone, and you can look and see which schools need substitute teachers, and then you can sign up for subbing over the internet or over the phone, over the computer, and then you just go to the school and you substitute. And so that's basically what I've been doing a lot of. And I love to write. I like writing a lot, and I've started a book that it's going to take a while to finish, because I write in spurts, and I stop and I start and I stop. But hopefully I'll get through it.
Awesome.
Yeah. And it's one about my family. It's basically about my family.
So it's like a biography.
Well, actually, it's like a snapshot in one period of time in my family when we lost my oldest sister. And it's a story of how each one of our family members came to it's a story of how we gathered up a group because she passed in New York, and how we got a group together to go there to send her off. We call it the send off or the homegoing. And so we got a group of family members to go there, and it's about that experience, just that one period in our lives.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of just brave commitment to just share your story through a story. So that's amazing. I do have a question, just piggybacking on the substitute teaching,
Mm-hmm.
what was your experience like? Because you said you started before the pandemic
Mm-hmm.
hit.
Just at the beginning.
Just before,
Yes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pandemic hit, so there
Mm-hmm.
was a break,
Mm-hmm.
and then you started going back. Did you notice any changes in terms of how substitute teaching was, or how were the students involved, or was it kind of the same?
Mm. It was not a lot of difference at the very beginning. My first students were like first grade, very early elementary, and they were hearing about COVID, and they were wanting to know what it was about. They were wanting to know what is this, and it was like they were really excited and afraid, and they wanted somebody to talk to them about it. But it seems that the schools were not ready yet to talk to them about what it is, because I heard one teacher say to a child, well, that's not my job to tell you, what this is about. Ask your parents. So
Yeah.
that was the atmosphere then. And that was the younger elementary school kids. I hadn't started with the older ones yet. And by the time I did after COVID, I think the kids were really, really open, happy to be back in school. I mean, really active and playful. I didn't see a whole lot of fear or
Okay.
anxiety about COVID or anything.
Okay.
So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go back again to your story with your sister.
Okay.
Was that recently that?
Oh no, that was in 2005.
Wow. Okay.
And I've always thought, during that time, I took notes about the situation because I said I might want to write about it one day. So during COVID, I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
I started making those notes into they were materializing into a book, kind of taking some form. So that's when the project really started.
Okay. Okay. Wow, that's amazing. In terms of, I've heard the term homegoing, but I don't really know what that is. Can you share a little more about what that is?
Okay, homegoing is in the African American culture is more like a celebration of life, and when we say homegoing, it's an allusion to going back home to our heavenly home.
Okay.
And so it's a very important part of our grieving process. It's the way we grieve. We come together. We talk about old times. We share memories of the person. We always share meals.
Wow.
Always eat a lot of food. And it's just the time that's the way we grieve.
Okay.
Time that the family comes together. And unfortunately, in some families, that's one of the rare times that you can get everybody together, But in our family, we kind of keep contact with each other. But then there are some who live a distance from us that we see not as regularly as others. So at funerals, everybody just get a chance to come together, and it's almost like a family reunion.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
And we do have those too. We have family reunions with my family, but during COVID, we were not able to do anything like that. So we tried Zoom meetings. My family is the older people are not as tech savvy as a lot of the younger ones. The younger ones have been dwindling away, and then they haven't been interested in doing those types of things. So I'm one of the younger of the older ones. It's one of the least one of the most tech savvy. And so we tried to set up a few meetings, and we had a few, but they weren't very regular. I think throughout the entire COVID, we had about four meetings, group meetings over the internet. But mostly my sisters and we did conference calls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at least you got to keep in contact virtually with your sister.
Yes.
And with your family, even if it wasn't as highly used. That's still
Mm-hmm.
pretty amazing that you guys put so much effort into
Yeah.
that. So can you tell me a little, Jackie, what was your personal experience like when COVID-19 kind of came here to North Carolina and the pandemic happened and then the lockdown happened and then the restrictions were mostly lifted with a few. What did that feel like for you?
There was a lot of isolation because we didn't know, how we heard how contagious it was, but we really didn't know how it was spread. And so everybody was just staying to themselves and afraid to go out. My sisters and I, normally would have some kind of physical contact every week, but during COVID, that just didn't happen. We talked on the phone, but we didn't have any physical contact. And I have several of my sisters who have either they have some health issues or their spouses have health issues. And so they didn't want to meet outside of the home and then go back and bring some kind of illness back to their family. So we just stuck to telephone contact. And there was a lot of isolation there. I live in a home of three, my husband and my son and myself. And throughout that time, we had no visitors to our house, none. Throughout the year, about a year and a half, no visitors. And anybody who came to our house was probably a service person for an appliance or something like that. And they always wore a mask, and we wore a mask, and we would stay in the very opposite room of where whoever was working in. Yeah. And we took all precautions that we could. But throughout the whole thing, my husband and my son, they both worked. Okay. And outside of the home. But fortunately, we never got sick. We never, they always followed whatever protocols they had on their jobs. And neither one of them was sick, and I wasn't. And we were really eager to get the vaccination. A lot of people that we knew were skeptical about it and said they didn't want to do it. But we were ready. We always planned to get it once it became available, and we did. We got them. We were all three vaccinated on the same day. We got our boosters on the same day. The second booster. How many boosters? We've had 2 boosts. No, my husband has had 2, and I've had 1. My son has had 1. So, yeah. So, but I have family members, a few, who are still skeptical about the vaccination, who have never been vaccinated, and several who have had COVID and gotten over it. Thank God. But and it's nothing we could do to convince them to get vaccinated. They still say that I don't know. I don't understand their reasoning, but they said that they don't want to be vaccinated. So, but the majority of my family is vaccinated. And now my husband's family in Africa, I don't know if they have been had the vaccination made available to them, but it has been so miraculous. None of them have been sick. Wow. He has a sister who lives in Paris. She and her husband and her daughter had COVID, but they all came through okay. So.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that.
But we haven't lost anyone, as far as I know, any close family members to COVID. But the loss that I have experienced during COVID has been more devastating than loss pre-COVID because of the isolation and because of the inability to grieve and to go to homegoing services or, that has been really hard. I lost my elder brother and his wife during the COVID last year. Sorry, my sister-in-law died February of last year, and then my brother died in August of last year.
I'm so sorry. I can't imagine. So when that happened, you were not able to attend their homegoing?
For my sister-in-law, it was early February, so we were not. And that was it was a graveside ceremony that was really brief. And so we were not able to attend that. But by the time my brother passed, we were able to go to his. It was a graveside service. And he was military. So he had a military service with I think it was like 6 servicemen who came to do the gun salute and all of it. Was really formal and it was really brought closure because we could talk and we could be together and see his send off and see how everything went. So that was a much easier than with my sister-in-law.
I can imagine. I mean, having some closure is a little easier than having none sometimes. So I can imagine. What do you think? So you kind of mentioned like some of the challenges you felt like you faced were the isolation. It seems like you're a very extrovert. You like to connect with people. You have those moments where you're shy, but you're an incredible. I mean, just sitting here talking to you, you're so open and welcoming and kind. And so, what did that feel like for you, the isolation?
It was difficult. It really was, and it became a little bit disorienting. It was really hard to organize and to organize your thoughts. Everything was running together, so I decided I had to structure my days in order to keep my sanity. And so in the mornings, I always have had devotions in the morning. I do devotional reading and Bible reading and stuff like that. But then I had certain times I had to do housework, do my cleaning, to watch TV, because in the beginning I was just watching television so much, and that news would, always talking about COVID. It was just so difficult. But once I started to kind of structure my day out, it became a little easier. I had certain times that I would call my sisters, and certain times I would work on things. I did get some projects around the house done that I had been neglecting for a long time, like covering chair. I had some dining room chairs that I need to cover, and some blinds that I need to replace, and things like that. And so it started to get, to be less difficult, but at the beginning everything was running together, just sitting in the house watching TV and not having anything to do. But one thing that my church also came up with a project to supply masks to places that were in need of them. And so we had a marathon mask making where we went to our church, a fellowship hall, and the women brought their sewing machines and material, and we just had a day of making masks. And that I learned how to make I sew generally, but I didn't have that pattern that they had. And that pattern became the pattern that I used, and I started to make masks for my family as well. And so we made, I forget how many, but we gave a large quantity to Dove's Nest, which is a women's program. And to I think the women's shelter as well. But we made masks for different organizations that needed them. And then I started to make them for my family. And so I sent some to my friend. I have a friend in Philadelphia. I sent some to her. I send them to my sister in New York. And, so in not in New York, in Chicago.
So finding those little projects kind of helped support you and kind of keep you a little busy and not so alone that time. And it seems like your church, I've heard incredible things about Rockwell. So,
well, actually, Rockwell is not my church.
Oh no! Okay.
I got introduced to Rockwell's programming over there because my neighbor is a member of Rockwell. And so my church was on lockdown, but we were doing outreach in the community. They were going to the homeless shelter and all of that. But at Rockwell, when they came up with this senior healthy aging program, that was a way for me to get out of the house. I started to go to that program. But they do a lot of great things. I'm a member of C.N. Jenkins Presbyterian Church on Statesville Avenue.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been a member there since about 1997.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
about 25 years.
That's amazing.
And there was something I was saying about the mass. We did that.
Yeah.
And then I was not involved in the homeless project where they would go out and minister to the homeless and take them different items on the street and things like that. I wasn't a part of that. But my neighbor and we met through a neighborhood association meeting where we had an idea. There were some people before me, and I came in on the back end of it, had an idea to beautify the front entrance of our neighborhood, because our neighborhood is like 30, 35 years old, and the front entrance signage is really faded and getting old. And so there's a group of women who wanted to beautify that, and so they applied for a matching grant.
Okay.
With the city of Charlotte.
Yeah.
And we were awarded the grant. And during that time, part of the match is for us to do community projects. And if we have anything in kind donations we can make to any projects we do, or any monies that we could contribute to any projects, the city would match it. Okay. And so the city is providing funding for our new signage. And we've gone through a lot of contractors and a lot of, the project is a long-winded project, but hopefully we'll have it done by the end of this year.
Okay.
We haven't had a lot of luck with the contractors that we've engaged. The city requires them to have certain credentials. Yeah. And most brick masons work under licensed people. They're not licensed themselves. Most of the ones that we've encountered, they're not licensed themselves, and they work under licensed people. And we haven't been able to find any that were under someone who's licensed, who could start the whole project, get the builder's permit and all of that stuff that's needed. But we finally landed on one person, and hopefully that's going to happen at the end of the year. But I said all that to say is that I met my neighbor, who is a Rockwell member, during that process. And one of the projects she and I started was a walking group. Okay. And we just call it Let's Walk, and we let everybody in the neighborhood know about it. We didn't get a whole lot of participation. At most, we were about 6 or 7. Okay. And we would just walk around the neighborhood, just so that we could get out and not be so confined to the house during the pandemic. Yeah. We wore our masks while we walked. Okay. And of course, we were outside, so, there was less possibility of getting contaminated. Yeah. And so we would do that 2 days a week. Yeah, 2 days a week. And we had like 6 people. Then it dwindled down until finally we ended up with 4 of us who did it regularly. And so when they started their healthy aging program at Rockwell, then she invited me to that. And that's how I got to Rockwell.
That's awesome. But that's so great that you guys got to start that little project in your neighborhood and connect with others and be healthy and take walks and be outside. It seems like that was truly a way to find community.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's so great.
And I've met so many nice people at Rockwell. They're very outreaching and very friendly. Very kind. Very nice.
Yeah, I agree. I've had a few encounters, and so far they've been really amazing. I wanted to ask you, it sounds like one good thing that you learned from COVID is the new friendships that you built through the walking club. Are there anything else good thing that came out of your experience?
Just the closeness of my family. Even though we were physically distanced from each other, we became more spiritually and emotionally connected, I don't know, our ties became stronger and we checked on each other more, even more than we had done before. And you know, even my adult son at home, he is really a quiet person, but he and I have connected a whole lot more now that we've gone through this.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's amazing. So, do you feel like your experience shaped you as a person in any way?
I think it has. It just helps me to value life more and to be more present with people, and because I wasn't really reaching out and doing a lot of new things, and so it made me want to do that more now. So so
like try new things.
mm-hmm.
Like meeting with me today.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done this before.
Well, we're so thankful that you did, because your story is lovely. So I want to honor your time and respect you. So is there any additional stories or experiences that you wanted to share about your COVID-19 experience, or anything from the last 2 years?
Hmm. Um, I've I've been a little more creative in my cooking, in my I've always prepared meals at home, but during COVID, there were less possibilities to eat out and all of that, and so I got a little more creative with my cooking. And the only thing that I didn't do that I'm surprised I didn't was do more baking, because I never have liked baking, and I still don't. I still don't like.
Really change that.
No, but I like cooking other
awesome.
things. So I tried a lot of different recipes, and cooked a little more than
Great. What was a new recipe that you tried that you just loved?
One that my husband loved a lot. It was I think it's savory pork chops or something. It's pork chops, but it has peppers and onions and the green and red bell peppers. And then I did it with this spicy cabbage. And then the cornbread muffins.
That sounds so good.
I did that for his birthday. So.
Aw, that's awesome.
And I've always made very good lasagnas. So I've done more lasagnas. And what's another one? When I want to think about stuff, it doesn't come to me. But there's one that's called $1 Million Chicken. It's a million dollar chicken. It has like Parmesan cheese. Ooh. It has cream. It has spices. Yeah.
Sounds good. $1 Million Chicken.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that.
It should be common because you can just look it up online and see it. And there's another one, Marry Me Chicken, too. They're similar. Yeah.
I love these names.
But they're similar.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jackie, thank you so much for sharing your story with Living Archives. And we're so thankful and honored to capture your story and save it for generations to come.
Okay, thank you.